Alright, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Music Director series. This is part 3. In part 1 we looked at generally what a music director is, what a music director is not. Remember, he's not meant to be the boss of the band, but meant to be a hub for the band. In the second video we looked at how exactly you can help the team, and we had a lot of practical examples for that. And today, in the final installment of the series, we want to have a look at prerequisites. What does it take to be a good music director? And we are going to have a look at practical tips for the right kind of mindset, building the right kind of team culture, and approaching this topic in general. So, prerequisites. One of the obvious things you need to have is the ability to play your instrument well enough. Because if you are not able to play your instrument without like a lot of concentration or taking a lot of your brain power, so to say, you will not be able to coordinate playing your instrument and at the same time paying attention to everything that's going on and communicating, talking. So make sure you have prepared the parts for your own instrument. You know what you're playing. It doesn't overwhelm you, but also you need to be prepared for the songs in general. As a music director, in the best case, you are aware of like what the drums are doing in the song, what kind of special parts instruments have, and how the whole song flows and is arranged. You don't necessarily need to know every detail, but you should know like the key parts or what's important for every band member. And you should really make sure that you are prepared well for the flow of the song, so you know how many times is a chorus or a bridge repeated, and also pay attention to the details, like if somewhere there's a extra bar or like just special moments, difficult moments that might be difficult to find the right point of entry or something like that. Only if you are prepared well for these parts, you can actually be a help and guide the team through that. One other thing that's important is that you have the right kind of team spirit or team culture. Ideally, you have open and trustful kind of team culture where you can talk openly about every topic. Every band member feels like they can speak up, they know they are heard. And it's also important to have trust in the team. So people should trust you as the music director, and you should also trust your team to be able to follow and also to be able to play on their own to a certain extent, because as a music director you can't do everything, you can't take care of every detail, so you still need to trust your team to do their job well. And having this kind of spirit of trust and spirit of openness, that will be a great platform to build up on for music directing and for flowing together as a team. Now, as a music director, and I've talked about that also in the first video, your mindset should be about communication. As a music director, you are a communicator. Obviously, you are talking, but it's not just the physical part of talking. It should be really your mindset. You should be the person that kind of establishes communication, this being connected in the team. It doesn't necessarily need to be only talking even. It can just be eye contact. Sometimes you can just look at a person, and by establishing that eye contact, you can build this feeling of connectedness. You can raise awareness. You can make everybody feel like you're more connected and you're flowing together, rather than everyone just standing like this. Just establish this communicative, connected feel in the team. I remember one service where I played, and I was not music directing with a microphone in that service, but I was like looking constantly at the drummer and trying to make sure we both know what's going on and where points of entries are. And after the service, the drummer came up to me and said, "Michael, you know what? How you looked at me all the time, I really felt like I always knew what's going on, and it gave me that sense of security." And that really is a good example of using also body language, using eye contact, and having just this communicative mindset to establish connectedness as a team. That can really help rather than just talking or just giving cues or commands. Also, communication doesn't necessarily only happen in the service or while the music plays. Communication also happens in practices, in rehearsals, while organizing things. So a great tip would be in practices, in rehearsals, talk about everything. Talk to your team, ask them if what you are saying is helpful for them, if they are missing anything, if maybe anything you say throws them off, because that's the last thing you want. The last thing you want is giving some cue that kind of raises question marks rather than answering questions. So talk to your team, ask them what they want, ask them if it's helpful. Explain why you are saying what you are saying. Talk about key moments in the song. If you do that, then when you come to the actual service, you are in the middle of the action, everyone will understand what's happening. They will kind of expect you to say something, not in a negative way, like not pressuring you, you have to say that, but everyone will kind of understand what's going on, and you will have a better understanding what the team needs. And again, it will reinforce that kind of team spirit, that connectedness, that sense of flowing together. Also talk to your worship leader. As a music director, it's really important to have a good relationship with the worship leader, to answer open questions beforehand, to understand where your worship leader wants to go in the service, what they want to achieve, maybe what kind of bothers them, so you can help in that situation. That's, of course, especially also important in spontaneous parts, in spontaneous worship, or if at the end of a song something is repeated again. Pay attention to the worship leader, try to get to know them generally, and in that situation try to read and gauge where it's going, and then try to be a help without getting in the way. Now, I don't have an example of exactly that, but I have another example of an end of a worship set where the band was playing behind the prayer and moderation. And then when this music was supposed to end, I was not quite sure in that moment what was the right point of time to end on. So I'm looking at the worship leader and I'm asking in my microphone, should we end now? Or just like end? And he's just nodding at me. So I'm counting in the end like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then everyone knows that's where we end on the final chord. So here's an example of that. Also, generally try to be aware of the atmosphere in the room. That's not only a tip for music directors, that's basically a tip also for everyone. Be aware of what's happening in the room, what the atmosphere is. Similar like the tip for establishing eye contact and body language, you can also do that if you're not music directing, just to enhance the team spirit. And this is also true for being aware of the atmosphere in the room. However, that's of course especially important for a music director. So sometimes by just being aware of what's happening, you will already know where probably the worship leader wants to go or where the whole service is flowing. So you can plan ahead for that, you can give guidance in that kind of situation, and it will avoid you giving some command that might be conflicting to what the worship leader actually wants. Another key point is to always plan ahead. As a music director, you generally should be ahead of what's happening. You should be aware of what comes next. Maybe just be aware of the next section. Right now you are in the verse and you are aware next thing that comes will be this big chorus, just as an example. That way you will be able to give commands early, give guidance early, rather than being overwhelmed yourself. This is especially important if something goes wrong. I have an example for you where we play the song That's the Power by Hillsong and we get out of sync with the backing track. So we basically enter the song too early or too quickly, and then we are ahead several notes in comparison to the backing track. So you will hear an example where between the first and the second verse, I believe, I'm giving a hint to the worship leader just in that brief pause, and I'm saying you are ahead of the track, just to make everybody aware. Bist ein bisschen vor dem Track.
Verse 2. Drums in.
Then we continue like nothing happened, because actually in that section there's only pads going on, so it's not really that much of a problem to the audience. And that's also something you should be aware of as a music director, like what's going on with the backing tracks. So I'm calling that out. We are ahead of the track. Then we go through the second verse, and as we approach the end of the second verse and then the chorus, I say just wait for half a bar. So I'm trying to get the band back in sync with the backing track. Now that's a bit challenging because you have to really force yourself to pay attention to what the backing track is actually doing, and it kind of goes against your feeling of how the band is flowing. But as the chorus approaches, I then count in the band to kind of the right measures, and I also give an additional assistance, just singing a brief moment of the melody to get us back in sync with the track.
Warte einfach einen halben Takt.
Chorus.
2, 3, 4. Namen.
Now, believe it or not, sometimes things just go very wrong. And actually in that same song, we got out of sync with the track again towards the end of the track. So this time there was no real option to get the band back in sync with the track. So we just went with it, and I believe to the audience it was not that much noticeable, maybe just to a trained ear. However, when we played through these final bridges, I realized that there's like a breakdown happening at the end. So the last line of the chorus is repeated one time strongly like a tag, and then this tag, this last line of the chorus, is repeated again with a breakdown. And I realized, since we were ahead of the song or ahead of the backing track, that the backing track would continue to play strongly while we as a band already braked down. So in that moment, I just gave the command continue strongly, and then I basically called out a crash out. So in that moment, the drummer looked at me like, what's happening now? But they went along with it, and I think to the outside world it was not really that bad, but it would have been a lot worse if we hadn't done it like that.
Unvergleichbar. Vergleichbar, weiter stark.
Breakdown.
Weiter. Und jetzt Crash Out.
Ending.
Now I have a few more tips for you. One of them would be early on your call outs. Don't be too late, don't wait too long. Plan ahead yourself and then give the call outs early so the band knows what's about to come. Another important point is the timing, like when you do your call outs. One option, of course, is just do it on the one, straight on the bar. Another great option is to actually use pauses or little breaks in the vocals, because by doing it like that, you will not get in the way of the vocals. you will not irritate the singer, and you will also have more sonical space, so to say. So the band will be able to hear you more clearly, since no vocals are singing in that moment. They will be able to hear your voice when you talk in that short break. So just use a short moment right between two sentences, two lines, two phrases, something like that. Now, one more thing that's important for you as a music director and for your mindset is stay calm. Sometimes things can really heat up. There can be a lot of things going on. You can be kind of challenged with your own instrument or remembering even all the parts of the song. And the last thing you want to do as a music director in that situation is to cause more trouble or to cause more hectic. So try to keep a calm state of mind. Try to always be ahead of the game. And if things go wrong, don't let them overwhelm you. That also comes with a bit of experience. It comes with time. Just a general advice. Try to stay calm as much as you can. And while saying that, I can connect that directly with the next point. As a music director, you don't need to constantly talk. You can talk in moments where it's really helpful, but if you have the backing track with the guide going on, and if you know and feel that everyone is secure in what they do, or it's really easy to follow anyways, you don't have to talk all the time. Just be there in the moments where it's really important, in critical parts, and in other parts of the songs. You can just take a break, basically. And also, you don't want to annoy the team all the time with talking all the time. That probably won't even help. And yeah, just keep that in mind. Be a help in those situations where it's actually helpful. Of course, that also depends on your team, depends on how secure they feel. It depends on your genre, on your general kind of situation. Just something from my experience of doing music directing in different bands. You don't need to talk all the time. Sometimes you can just let it flow. Sometimes you can just be the one watching, and sometimes things just work and you know that they work, and then it's fine. The last point I want to make is it's okay to make mistakes. You will not be perfect as a music director. The team will not be perfect. They will not always be able to perfectly follow what you call out. The important part, in my experience and in my point of view, is talk about what happened afterwards. Have this kind of open communication, that culture again, where you can talk about mistakes, you explain what happened. Also explain maybe why you did what you did as a music director. In that example we listened to, where our worship team got out of sync with the backing track, and right at the end I called out, do that strong tag again instead of breaking down. The drummer looked at me like, why are we doing that? And I called it out again, and we did it. And I noticed there was confusion in that moment. The team followed anyway. We trusted each other that everything would work out well. But after the service, we met as a team, and we also talked a little bit about the situation. And I explained to the team that I did this call out because otherwise the track would have been audible after us stopping to play. And then everyone was like, that's why you did that. So explaining the situation like that just helped to build trust, to build that sense of we can trust each other as a team. People can trust me as a music director. I can trust the band. And it also helps people understand you're not calling these things out because you kind of want to be the boss, you want to be in command. But in that situation, it actually served a very special purpose. I did it out of necessity and to save that situation. Now that's just a very specific example, but my general point is talk about what's happening. I established the point before that you talk about things in the practice, in times of preparation, but also talk with your team afterwards. Doing that will really help get everyone on board, will help everyone understand what's going on, will build trust, will build the team culture. And these maybe 5 minutes can be a time well invested. All right, so that wraps up the music director series. I hope you got value out of this video, out of the whole series. I hope you liked it. If you did, remember to press that like button down below. If you are interested in worship team related videos, in worship electric guitar, in technical stuff, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I hope you're having a wonderful day out there, and I hope to see all of you in the next one. Bye!